Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, allow me to first and foremost say a special hello to my colleagues from the Employers Group, who I am seeing most of you for the first time after the summer break, but also a special thanks to our many guests and indeed distinguished speakers. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome you to this event, the event which is, as you have seen, titled Leading the Way, a Competitiveness Agenda for a Stronger Europe. And this is an event which I am very proud to say we organized together with our partners, our business partners, and allow me to mention them one by one. There are 6 of them: Business Europe, SME United, Eurochambers, Eurocommerce, SGI Europe, and Copa Cogeca. And I am especially keen to mention them because they are our partners with whom we work very closely on this topic, and also they are with us here today to participate in the debate. As you can imagine, the theme of today's event strikes at the very heart of the work we carry out as employers here in Brussels. And I would say that in a world shaped by constant transformation, the European Union stands at a critical crossroads where challenges and opportunities are converging to redefine our future. The ecological, demographic, technological, geopolitical, and financial challenges demand that we have a coherent and clear vision as to how we are going to move forward. And most importantly, because we have suffered maybe a bit from this in the past, there is no space for complacency. As you well know, I don't need to tell you, we are in the middle of not one, but 2 overarching transitions. Both transitions are impacting us on a daily basis. I would also dare to say that we are at a stage where old certainties are no longer valid. And this morning I was discussing with Martin, trying to find Martin. This morning we were discussing, actually this afternoon we were discussing the challenges facing the automotive industry, challenges brought about by the need to address climate change. And also we have new emerging realities which, in my view, are moving too fast for our current policy-making structures. And here, of course, I'm thinking about AI. Today's event, allow me to say that today's event marks an important milestone in our journey. We are bringing together European businesses and EU policymakers from the Parliament and the Commission to discuss the need for a competitiveness agenda for the EU that not only propels businesses forward, but also drives a prosperity for everyone. And on this, I am especially keen. Ladies and gentlemen, this event has been driven by our conviction that Europe's competitiveness must be front and center now and in the next interinstitutional cycle. I believe it is a fair assertion to state that, unfortunately, competitiveness has not always been regarded as the prime priority, and rather, I would say, has been excluded from the EU agenda for years, if not decades, at least since the last Lisbon agenda. And this has had serious consequences, which, allow me to quote, some figures will clearly show what I am talking about. Europe's share of the global economy has been declining for quite some time. We were in 1990 at 25% of the global economy, down to 15% in 2020, and a predicted less than 10%, all things being equal, in 2050. Europe is falling behind on 8 of 10 transversal technologies, putting Europe at a clear disadvantage. For instance, the top 10 major companies investing in quantum computing are in the United States or China, not Europe. In AI, investments by US corporations is 6 times that of European counterparts. Further figures from the top 10 countries which have published the most impactful AI research, we find only 2 EU member states, Germany in 4th place and France in the 8th place. Of the top 100 cited papers on artificial intelligence in 2022, we find that Germany produced 4, France produced 2, compared with the States, which has produced 68, and China, 27. Further example is the automotive industry, which we mentioned, where last year, from an estimated 10 million EV vehicles sold, 6 million were produced by Chinese companies. This in an industry which we know in the past, in the very recent past, was an industry where China looked towards us to lead rather than the other way around. Europe has some of the most productive retailers, but has no online retail platform to match the size of leading US and Chinese online retailers. Europe has strength in software too, but is not leveraging its position to establish a world-leading business-to-business software. In addition to our own structural problems, I'm afraid to say that we are also looking at a likely slowdown of the global economy. So, dear friends, please make no mistake that the waters ahead are indeed troubled ones. To us employers, it is clear there is a lot of work that needs to be done on various fronts, from tackling existential threat of climate change to upgrading critical infrastructure to addressing the very challenging demographics. There is no doubt that a lot needs to be done, and this needs to be done urgently. However, as employers, we are also clear that we need to tackle some maladies which are of our own making. And here, of course, I'm specifically referring to over-regulation. Compared to our competitors, EU businesses are burdened by significant administrative obstacles that hinder their ability to invest and effectively undergo the green and digital transitions. Unfortunately, I would say that Europe has become a champion of regulation, which is hindering our indigenous enterprises, while at the same time discouraging inward investment. I cite another critical sector, and here I look towards my friend Andras, the steel sector, just taking into account recently enacted legislation and legislation which is in the pipeline. The EU steel industry must deal with 148 new legislative initiatives, 89 of which are coming from the Green Deal. And this trend is unmistakably mirrored in the reality that European companies underperform in comparison to their counterparts. They are growing more slowly, they are creating lower returns, and investing less in R&D. And we need really to break this vicious cycle, because without innovation, we are going to face serious problems, because innovation is the ingredient which will allow us to survive the global storm ahead. We are fully supportive of the latest initiatives by the Commission President, to reduce administrative burdens. However, we need to start seeing concrete results. We need to start seeing them yesterday. In this regard, we also positively note the document produced by the German government a few days ago, with practical suggestions on how to reduce the administrative burden. The goal of this drive should be to make it easier for companies to create jobs and growth, whilst once again making Europe an attractive place to invest in. As employers, we strongly believe that we can still turn the tide. Of course, if we are all, employers and policymakers and civil society partners, ready to take up the challenge. We believe that there are many reasons to be optimistic, because Europe has many strengths: its high-quality education system, the single market, and the fact that we are one of the most open and connected economies in the world. Over the past years, the Employers Group, with its partner associations, has consistently advocated for a more strategic approach to competitiveness, proposing the idea of a competitiveness check on all new legislation before it is actually launched. And indeed, also from the discussions I've had today, we need to look at the cumulative effect of the legislation coming in. Over the past months, we have seen a shift in focus as the EU begins to prioritize competitiveness of our economy and businesses, marking a departure from decades of neglect. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to leave you just with 3 crucial takeaways, if I may, which we as the Employers Group will also carry forward into the next legislative cycle. First and foremost, we need to have competitive access to resources, energy, raw materials, labor, capital data. They must all be available to our companies under competitive conditions. Secondly, we need to have open markets with equal rules. And thirdly, we need to have, as I was saying, business-friendly regulation and taxation, which will allow us to once again make Europe the #1 location for investment. Thank you very much, and I look forward to a strong and constructive dialogue today. Thank you very much.